The Flat Earth theory must be the most talked about and requested videos for me to make. I myself have tried to stay away from this particular subject because I noticed a huge division in truth seekers since the Flat Earth subject became popular again, and also when Donald Trump became president of the United States. And so, I have been on the fence with this subject for many years, and I always say when asked, I would not be surprised either way if the Earth was flat or round. After years of watching all kinds of Flat Earth videos, I noticed that the Flat Earth population is increasing rapidly and have presented strong evidence supporting their theory, while the Round Earthers just seem to attack the credibility or sanity of the individual creating the video without really presenting any real evidence of their own.
Kyrie Irving, I don't know, did you see
No,
You saw this, right?
don't get me started.
I gotta know. Kyrie Irving says that he, even though has been told the world is round, believes it to be flat. What is your thought process on this?
Most of them just seem to regurgitate what they have already learned in school. The same school that teaches us that Christopher Columbus discovered America, among many other events in our history that we know now not to be true. Most of us have learned through our own research that our history is clearly very shady to say the least, and history has been rewritten many times. Some scientists today are skeptical of the idea that the Earth is indeed round, because even though it is presented as a truth, there is no unquestionable scientific evidence that it is round. Everything on which science bases itself are only evidences, and evidences are not proofs. The idea that the Earth is a flat disk or plane first comes from most ancient civilizations, including Egypt and Greece, until the classical period. In 1543, Nicholas Copernicus proposed the first heliocentric model of the universe. The famous Flat Earth Flammarion engraving from 1888 depicts a traveler who arrives at the edge of a flat Earth and pokes his head out through the firmament. In early Mesopotamian mythology, the world was portrayed as a flat disk floating in the ocean with a hemispherical sky dome above, and this forms the premise for early world maps. The earliest documented mention of the spherical Earth concept dates back from the 6th century BC, when it appeared in ancient Greek philosophy with Pythagoras, and later Aristotle and Euclid wrote about the Earth as a sphere, but remained a matter of speculation until the 3rd century BC. It is said that Aristotle provided evidence for the spherical shape of the Earth on empirical grounds around 330 BC. Ptolemy wrote geography at the height of the Roman Empire, 1,300 years before Columbus sailed, and considered the idea of a round planet. The spherical Earth gradually began to spread beyond the Hellenistic world. From then on, and the concept of a spherical Earth replaced earlier beliefs in a flat Earth. Most of the ancient cultures believed that the Earth was flat. The same ancient cultures that built the pyramids and seem to have more knowledge about our world and universe than we do today. Personally, I feel more connected to the ancient and hermetic teachings of the past, knowing that almost everything I have learned from mainstream scholars is usually a theory or simply incorrect information. Many religious texts also refer to the Earth as a flat disk or a plane with an impenetrable dome known as the firmament. Apollo 8. The Apollo 8 spaceflight mission in the United States was launched on December 21, 1968, and is reported to be the first manned spacecraft to leave Earth's orbit and return safely to Earth. The crew of Apollo 8, Bill Anders, Jim Lovell, and Frank Borman recited Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 10 using the King James Version text as they supposedly orbited the moon. In their own words, goes as follows. Bill Anders: "We are now approaching the lunar sunrise, and for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness." James Lovell: "And God called the light day, And the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Frank Borman. And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good.
And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
So my question is this. Being the first crew to leave Earth's orbit, why on earth would all three men feel compelled to read from the book of Genesis at that particular moment in time, in what was the most watched television broadcast ever in the history at the time? My guess is that they read those particular verses because that is what best describes the vision they saw when they witnessed the firmament with their own eyes. And of course, I may be wrong, and you could decide for yourself. There is no doubt in my mind that NASA and the governments of the world have been hiding much information from the public, and I believe that it is our duty to find the truth and share it with the rest of the world. I believe that people have the right to know the truth. We have the right to ask questions when we don't fully understand something. I myself have learned a lot by asking questions, and one of the best lessons I've learned is that the instructors didn't know too much, and here they are trying to teach us things that they lack the answers to themselves. Like the crew of the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster that mysteriously seemed to have reappeared again after blowing up in the sky on national television. Another being the fake Photoshop pictures that we see of the Earth. Look at the official images that NASA presents to the public. The size of North America changes with every new picture. What would be the reason for that? Well, NASA employee Robert Simon has gone on record saying that the Earth is photoshopped because it has to be. So why don't we have any real pictures of the Earth? We also see lots of symbolism indicating that the world is flat, such as Mad Max, Beyond the Thunderdome, the TV series Under the Dome, and of course we have the United Nations emblem that many people believe to be the actual map of the world. One of the more obvious clues indicating that the world could be round would have to be the fact that the moon is round, the sun is also round, and every single planet that we could see in our telescopes are round. However, even through a high-powered telescope, these planets look pretty fake when examined carefully. How fast does Earth orbit the Sun? The Earth's orbit speed around the Sun is about 67,000 miles per hour, 107,000 kilometers an hour, according to Cornell. Gravity. Gravity helps explain why we don't get thrown off a spinning ball, and it's interesting to me that most people believe in a spinning ball traveling at speeds that you can't even imagine, yet they have a problem with a stationary Earth that doesn't move. Just remember that gravity has never been proven as an unquestionable truth. A logical, alternative explanation would have to be density and buoyancy. If something is heavier than air, it will fall, and if something is lighter than air, it floats. Very simple. The Sun and the Moon. In a flat Earth plane, the Sun and the Moon travel around the Earth in a clockwise motion from east to west. In this scenario, the Sun disappears at the vanishing point of the human perspective on the horizon where the ground meets the sky. Antarctica. It is speculated by many that perhaps the plane that we live on is either extremely expansive or it's possibly endless. Is it possible that more land is being hidden from the general public? In a 1954 interview with Admiral Richard E. Byrd, who was an American naval officer and explorer, had this to say, "But strangely enough, left in the world today is an area as big as the United States that has never been seen by a human being, and that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America, and I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored. It sounds a lot like he is implying that there is more land past Antarctica. A recent discovery of an ancient Buddhist map in a newspaper from 1907 seems to support the idea of a vast, expansive Earth with many more continents past the Arctic ice walls. Gleason's map, 1892. Is it possible that the Gleason's map could be the actual map of the world? It states at the top, scientifically and practically correct, as it is. I couldn't say for certain, but it is noteworthy to mention that this map is the same map used for the United Nations logo. The map says at the bottom that the sun moves in circles around the tropics, meaning that Alexander Gleason, the creator of the map, suspected that the Earth didn't move. Also, Gleason wrote a book called Is the Bible from Heaven? Is the Earth a Globe? Here are some interesting clips about the maps that we use today.
Are you saying the map is wrong?
Oh dear, yes. Look at Greenland.
Okay,
Now look at Africa.
okay.
The two land masses appear to be roughly the same size.
Yes.
Would it blow your mind if I told you that Africa is in reality 14 times larger?
Yes?
Here we have Europe, drawn considerably larger than South America. When it's 6.9 million square miles, South America is almost double the size of Europe's 3.8 million.
Alaska appears 3 times as large as Mexico, when Mexico is larger by 0.1 million square miles.
Germany appears in the middle of the map when it's in the northernmost quarter of the Earth.
Wait. Relative size is one thing, but you're telling me that Germany isn't where we think it is?
Nothing's where you think it is.
My final conclusion. After going over most of the given evidence that has been presented to us from both sides, I would have to say that for me personally, it makes more sense that the world would be a flat plane, and the more I think of a spinning globe moving at supersonic speeds that I can't even understand, the more I think we've been lied to. Either these people can't seem to get anything right, or they are possibly plotting for world domination, and most likely something that has to do with aliens that come from another so-called planet. With all the movies and talk about ancient aliens and superheroes from other planets, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I personally don't think that aliens exist, and it looks a lot like the Jesuits, Vatican, NASA, SpaceX, and the governments of the world, and whoever else they are working with, are behind all this deception. So why would they do that? By creating a fake universe with spherical planets everywhere would keep the people from figuring out the truth and keep them guessing of wild and endless worldly possibilities of other planets and aliens.
The strategy that Wernher von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in '74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now, at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids, we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over, during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie. A lie.
All truth goes through 3 stages. At first it is ridiculed. In the second, it is violently rejected. In the third, it is accepted as self-evident.